always think finding out what the clients have, and you might not be able to see it because maybe they've got like a really gorgeous vintage sideboard that's down in the garage. So just ask them. Maybe they're even open if it's not like the right piece for the space they're trying to create. I'm working with some clients at the moment, and they've got a beautiful vintage buffet that's been in their family, passed down a couple of generations. And they're not really like emotionally tied to it. And the way that it is at the moment, it doesn't really work in the space that they want to create. We're doing a living room. And they're open to painting it. So we're going to paint this piece because vintage furniture, I mean, it depends on the value of it, but vintage furniture can look incredible painted.
Welcome to the Design Dialogues, the podcast where we dive deep into the business of interior design. I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and a designer with over 13 years of experience. I'm here to help you navigate the challenges of running a successful studio, whether you're a solo designer or leading a team. Each week, I chat with industry experts and share practical insights to help you streamline your processes, grow your business, and create a studio that thrives. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy our Design Dialogues.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. This week I am joined by Nikki McGar from Nikki McGar Interiors. Hi Nikki.
Hi Beth.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me today. So as always, I love to start by finding out what can you see out your window today?
Well, I'm lucky. There's blue skies in our beautiful backyard. It's north facing, so it's a little sun trap, and there's a silvered off deck, lush green grass, and lots of natives.
Sounds beautiful. So for those of us who are not familiar with your interior studio, tell us a little bit about your studio and how you got into design.
Well, it's probably this house I'm in that started it all. Not because I renovated my own house and caught the bug. I actually ran this house as an Airbnb, and then a year or so in, I realised that Sarah Andrews of the incredible Stay Captain's Rest down in Tasmania. I realised that she ran these hosting masterclass courses. So anyway, I jumped on the website to see what they were all about. I signed up and I completed one of her courses. But along with completing the course, I found this gorgeous bunch of supportive individuals along the way. And after the course, I gave our Airbnb a bit of an overhaul. And then people that started staying in the Airbnb were asking if I styled for a living and would I come and do their homes.
Wow.
So that was a bit of a pinch me moment. I did learn an incredible amount from doing Sarah's course and also just being part of the community, like a big shout out to Sarah Andrews. Absolutely in awe of the community that she's built. And I'm really grateful to Sarah for everything that I've learnt. Sarah also recommends me to other Airbnb owners now. And I'm fortunate to work with some really gorgeous women in this space. And I hopefully will stay in touch with all of them. But after completing that hosting masterclass, I thought I might, try and follow this path. So I also enrolled in Julia Green's style retreat. I turned up to Greenhouse Interiors and got a little glimpse of the styling world. It was just the one-day course, but I guess it showed me what was possible. Fast forward a few months, we sold our Melbourne house, quit our jobs, and moved into this Airbnb. And then I turned up to help Julia on a shoot just over on the Mornington Peninsula. And at the end of the shoot, Julia offered me a job.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. What a journey. So were you, like, before you had the Airbnb, like, were you kind of interested in interiors and styling, or was it kind of something that you just kind of started doing and you're like, oh, I'm quite good at this, and it seems to resonate with people? Like, how did you fall into it so much?
Oh, I think I've always loved interiors, but I have never really thought about it as a career.
Yeah.
Um, I was a teacher for many, many years, and always loved that job. I always loved helping people and helping the kids. And I guess this job has a lot of similarities. But no, I just never really thought it was a career path for me, or didn't really realize my place in it,
Yep.
until I just, yeah, took a bit of a chance and started doing more and more in that world. I guess friends would often ask for my advice
Mhm.
with their houses, or, if they were renovating a bathroom or something. And so I would always jump in and help them.
Yeah.
But even then, I still didn't really think of it as a career path for me.
Yeah. Wow. And it's I love like I love this. I think it's such an entrepreneurial thing, but you're quite open minded about it all, and it sounds like you've just kind of said yes to opportunities that come along. Like it's quite an organic path that you're kind of following as you build your career.
100%. And I'm still in that phase pretty much. I say yes to everything. And having Julia Green as a mentor, it feels like having a bit of a golden ticket into the industry. So
Yeah.
it is not lost on me how lucky I have been.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So you are based down in Geelong. Tell me what the Geelong design scene is like, and what is it like being in a kind of, I mean, quite a large regional centre when it comes to design?
Well, living regionally has been really just a really lovely change for me, I guess. There seems to be a lot of creative people down this way. And a lot of people have been really generous and willing to share and open up. We've settled in Barwon Heads, so it's
Mhm.
half an hour south of Geelong. It's a little coastal town just before the Great Ocean Road.
Yeah.
It's fairly quiet here for most of the year anyway, a much more slower pace than Melbourne.
Yeah.
I think I just needed a bit of a change from Melbourne. And I lived in London for many years before that. And my husband has spent his entire life in London. So definitely city people, but I've always craved a connection to the beach, which I had
Mm.
many years ago. And I just felt like I needed that again.
Yeah.
Um, and I find just being out in nature down here just really recharges me and provides me with a lot of inspiration as well.
Yeah.
But the Geelong design scene seems to be evolving, and yeah, it does have that real sense of community. Earlier this year, we hosted a talk at Greenhouse Interiors, and it was for Geelong Design Week.
Yeah.
And Julia spoke at this night along with Jessica Bettany and Lucy Gladewright.
Mhm.
And the room was packed full of like architects, interior designers, stylists, artists, loads of creatives filled the room, and there was like a real buzz in the air. I absolutely loved it. It was definitely a cool night, and the women that all spoke were super generous with their knowledge. It's not as vibrant or fast paced as Melbourne here. It does seem to be a much more relaxed way of life, though. There's still a real emphasis on quality, craftsmanship, and creating spaces that complement the natural surroundings is a big part of down here, which is something that I feel like I've really embraced in my own work, and I love that. And I'm also getting to know lots of amazing creators and makers down this way. There does seem to be a lot of them. Plus, we're only a short drive from Melbourne, so I can easily tap into the larger design network there, just from sourcing furniture in Melbourne often,
Yeah, you
or
kind of
liaising
have
with suppliers.
that best of both worlds in a way.
Exactly. It's pretty easy. I try not to go too often, and I do try to have a few things to do when I'm there, but I've also got all my friends there still, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's so lovely. Like I think that sense of community that comes from being in like a smaller centre where you do kind of most probably know people a bit more is so lovely. And I think, like Julia is obviously such a massive champion of great design and style kind of thing. So having her based in Geelong is a real life force behind it all. I do love as well that sense of um, like being close to makers and kind of that slower creative kind of lifestyle is really kind of surrounding you down there. It's must be a lot of like lots of inspiration every day.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think just the longer you are in an area or the longer I live here, yeah, the more kind of connections you seem to make with those makers and creators, which is nice.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have other Airbnb people kind of contacting you to help with their homes. And one of the things we always talk about is having a niche, and that's a definite niche kind of thing. Like it's not just Airbnb styling, but it's kind of like really lovely Airbnb styling. You have quite you have a specific style. How do you work with like do they come to you because of the style, or do they kind of come to you to help kind of create the identity of the Airbnb?
I feel like it's around more I can help them create the identity. So if they're already working with Sarah Andrews, they're already working on their house story and like the meaning behind their house and what they want to put out and what they want their house to portray or how they want someone to feel when they come and stay at their house. So I that's usually the first thing I kind of ask them is, how's your house story going? Have you written it? Do you need some help on it? And I dig a little deeper into that,
Mm,
and then that guides me, and they guide me.
yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. So I try not to put too much of my own design aesthetic onto them, but just find out, yeah, I guess, yeah, a little bit more about them and a little bit more about the house. And sometimes it's just even going to the house
yeah.
and spending some time in the area, and looking at the architecture of the house that really kind of dictates that as well.
And how do you balance? Like I think this is a real art, and I know when we had Simone from Soul Home on, we talked about this about how there's one thing for like an Airbnb to look great in the photos and it to be styled beautifully, but it also has to work practically as a holiday property. Like there are certain things that a holiday property needs to do that are different from a house. How do you manage that in your styling?
Well, I actually love that. The fact that it's not the fact that it's not a real home.
Yeah.
Um, even like storage, you don't have to think about storage so hard because there's not a whole lot of like crap that comes along with the everyday life. Like you're setting up these beautiful like holiday experiences for people. Um, and even, with your kitchen, sometimes, you've got lots of cooking utensils and different pots and pans and whatever, even things like that can be really streamlined.
Yeah. So it's
Um,
almost like you kind of get to be it's not play home, but it's like this whimsy that you can bring into it, which is would be
the
lots of
whimsy,
fun.
yeah, exactly. Creating this other world for people to enjoy just for a short period of time.
Yeah. What are some of the kind of favorite like Airbnbs that you've worked on that you kind of go like, oh, like I just love that one and like I wish I could stay there all the time kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that to me, that's also about the people that run them.
Yes.
Obviously, I get to work with the people that own them, and I get to know them. So, and I probably didn't realize that at first, but that's been a really incredible part of doing this job as well. So I worked with Sam from the Treehouse in
Hmm.
Merimbula. She's an amazing person, and she set up this Airbnb in Merimbula. She lives in Sydney, and she just needed help. She wanted to do some new photos, so she wanted to sort of restyle it, and she'd written this really beautiful house story, but her old photos just uh, just were not linked to her house story. Her house story was it was like friends having wine by the fireplace and um, you know looking out over the beautiful treetops. She has ocean views, and the place felt quite industrial. And her story was all like warm,
Yeah.
woods and beautiful textures and things like that. And so I got to work with Sam, just yeah, doing a makeover on the treehouse,
Yeah.
which was really awesome. And she was just really trusting. She already had great taste, and yeah, we collaborated on a lot of things. We found a lot of vintage furniture. We swapped out the lighting. added some art, bedding. We didn't like paint or do new flooring or a new kitchen or anything like that, but we did swap out the island. There was like a metal island and these metal lights, and then we swapped it out for an old carpenter's bench actually in the kitchen, and just really changed the whole space and just warmed it up, and yeah, it just really suited her story a lot more. So there was Sam, and then Leah. I worked with Leah Westwood Lodges in Bright,
Yep.
which was also incredible. Such a beautiful area, and Leah had lived there all her life. And I think it's all her life. She'd lived there for a long time anyway. And she takes groups hiking in the mountains, and she's a long distance runner as well. So she's really fit. She's into her nutrition. She loves spending time in nature.
Yeah.
And so Leah had also written her house stories, but Leah herself, getting to know her, really dictated what we did with the properties. And she was really open and really trusting, and her properties were fairly like white, black, lots, really quite neutral. And we added a whole lot of color into them, and we even did a pink velvet couch.
So much fun. It's so interesting as well. Like you think about like Airbnbs or holiday rentals, they really sit at this cross section of almost like commercial and hospitality and residential design. Like they really sit kind of right in the middle there, because they need to feel like a home, but they also need to feel like a business, because like they've all, as you said, all of these homes have their own branding. So they've got like that brand behind them as well, kind of thing. And then there's the commercial aspect or the hospitality aspect, because they've got to be robust enough to like withstand all of that. So it's such an
Absolutely.
interesting kind of like Venn diagram. Like they kind of sit in the middle of all the elements of interior design. Um, what are some of the, I suppose, challenges that you've come across when you've been working on these projects?
Well, I think with the Airbnbs, like you want to be able to style and decorate and really tell that house's story through the furnishings and decoration. But like as you say, they are a commercial space, and you've got quite a high turnover of guests,
Yeah.
and you're coming in, or whoever's coming in and doing the cleaning and the changeovers. They've got to be able to do that fairly quickly, because a lot of these Airbnbs, they're booked back to back. So you've got, say, maybe a 4-hour window to do the changeover, and that's, all the bedding and towels and all of that. So you really need something that's fairly quick and easy to change, to turn over as well. So even just having all your little knickknacks around, you have to be, I guess, quite mindful of how many things and where you place them, and even like breakable items, where they're placed, how much they cost, because a guest could easily break something. But yeah, have enough so it does feel, like you say, it feels homey, like someone's home, because often that's the reason why someone chooses to stay in an Airbnb, because they want that sense of home, and they want to be able to do their own cooking and cleaning and things like that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And so what are some of the kind of challenges that you've faced in your business that have really made you think about the systems and processes that you run in your business? And I can imagine that like having multiple projects on like multiple kind of like Airbnbs and different locations and all of that kind of stuff. There's lots and lots, like all interior design projects, but there's lots and lots of moving parts to your business. How do you keep on track of it all?
Well, yeah, I guess that's probably my main motivator. Is I've got lots that I want to do, but there is only so many hours in a week. Um, so I think you quickly realize that you do need to have systems and processes. They all need to be set up and easy to run and ready to go. Um, I also realize that I'm working on my client's biggest asset, or probably their biggest asset, and they put their trust in me. I'll use my experience not only to deliver their vision, but to deliver it in the smoothest way possible. And I guess for me, my past career, it is all about having those strong systems and processes in place to help me, um, but also just to make the experience really smooth and hopefully enjoyable for the client.
One of the things that I'm always talking about, especially for designers who come into the industry as maybe a second or third career, is about those transferable skills. And you mentioned you have a background in education and running a classroom, which I just think is an amazing skill. What are some of those transferable skills that you think have helped you in your studio?
Well, I absolutely did not see that I had transferable skills. I think I had been in the education industry for so many years, but I'd worked numerous jobs in that industry. Yeah, and I probably the technical side of things, like just I guess knowing my way around a computer, that has really helped for interior design. Um, Even using like programs like Canva, I used that when I was teaching, so I was already, aware of the benefits of that. So that's been really helpful. Um, Being able to talk to anyone. So, I guess when I'm doing a presentation in front of a whole school or in front of parents or anything like that, talking to a 5-year-old, talking to a 15-year-old, talking to a 50-year-old, talking to an 80-year-old.
All the same.
Yeah. Yeah, just been really, I guess, comfortable around people and drawing out of people their life experience because I find it's really helpful to me to find out about, my clients and how they live and how each member of their family lives and designing a home that's going to really give the best impact or benefit that lifestyle.
Yeah. So one of the other things that I love about your interiors that you work on is, and you mentioned it before, you use a lot of like vintage pieces to really build that kind of beautiful character. And I know so many designers like they love the idea of vintage pieces, but they're kind of like, I don't even know where to start, and it feels like an overwhelming process. What are some of your tips for someone who's like maybe hasn't used vintage pieces before? How do you go about sourcing and finding them and making sure they're the right pieces?
I guess if you haven't used vintage before, but you're interested to use a little bit of vintage, you can always speak to your homeowners, like see what they've got. Often it's the homeowners that have something's being passed down from the family, whether it's a small vase or decorator item, it might be a piece of art. The Airbnb I worked on in Bright, Leah's place, she had multiple pieces of art, so we looked at those first and we saw, well, what can we use? What does Leah already have that we can use that would look cool? And maybe you're not going to use something in the same way. Maybe there's even dining chairs. You might take a dining chair. Maybe they don't work all together, but you can mix them up. You could use one in a different area. You could use one as a bedside table. But yeah, I always think finding out what the clients have, and you might not be able to see it because maybe they've got like a really gorgeous vintage sideboard that's down in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so just ask them, um, and maybe they are even open if it's not like the right piece for the space they're trying to create. I'm working with some clients at the moment, and they've got a beautiful vintage buffet that's been in their family, passed down a couple of generations, and they're not really like emotionally tied to it. And the way that it is at the moment, it doesn't really work in the space that they want to create. We're doing a living room. And they're open to painting it. So we're going to paint this piece because vintage furniture, I mean, it depends on the value of it, but vintage furniture can look incredible painted, especially if, they're not so attached to it in its current state. That's just a great tip is, yeah, finding something old and painting it, it works wonders. And then just good old Facebook Marketplace. I guess you do have to go on a bit of a search. It's not always easy and things don't always pop up. And then it depends where that item is located. Yeah, sometimes it's all about doing the drives and just keeping an eye on it frequently.
Yeah. And I like, I
And then
mean,
you've got to,
I love that idea of art being like a starting point. Like I think art I mean, and art doesn't have to be expensive art. It could be something they found at like a garage sale that they just happen to love. And I think that's the best kind of art, really. It's whatever you like and love. And so often art is the key to making a home feel like a home. So I can imagine the importance of art that art plays in an Airbnb styling. I think as well, the other thing that people sometimes forget about with vintage, like it doesn't have to be expensive. Like it can just be like, it can be like, from marketplace or whatever kind of thing. Like it's just that character that vintage brings.
Exactly. You might have a $10,000 or $20,000 couch, and then in the middle is this gorgeous coffee table that, it might have cost you $500.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's so cool. So, tell me, what is some of the things that excites you about our industry at the moment?
Well, to be quite honest, everything still excites me. But I guess we're seeing a lot of experimentation with color, texture, materiality. And I love that. People seem to be moving away from the neutral, minimalistic palettes. They seem to have dominated for quite some time. And yeah, just embracing those bolder colors and richer textures. It's pretty cool to see people becoming like more confident in their design choices. And like we were just talking about, whether it's mixing those modern pieces with vintage or even just layering different textures to create a more tactile, immersive experience. I'm also loving the color drenching. So, like, all the walls are the same color, the ceiling's the same color. You just really kind of going for it. There's no more feature walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, just color drench
Dead
it. Do
to
it
the meat.
all. If you're going to go for it, go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And then some of the new wallpapers on the market. House of Hackney are a bit of a firm favourite of mine. I'm loving some of their wallpapers and just their like sense of joy and playfulness creeping into design, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. I must admit, every time I ask this question, the color thing is really, it's high up on people's list. I think we're all ready for color in our lives.
Yeah, I think some people like, from what I like often hear from clients, they really want to use color, but I guess they're just a bit scared of using color or getting it wrong. Yeah, so just working with them on I guess, yeah, being a little braver and trying a few things. And you don't need to have a completely colorful house, but just bringing it in some really like small intentional ways can make a big difference.
And, if you do end up painting a whole room, it's just paint. It can be redone.
It's just paint. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, tell me, what are you looking forward to in the next 12 months in your business?
Well, I think for me in my business, I'm just going to talk about some projects that I'm doing that I'm really excited to see come like be
Yep.
made in real life. I'm finishing designing 3 pretty cool bathrooms for an epic house in Newtown in Geelong
Oh, wow.
right now. I actually did their kitchen earlier this year, and we're looking to start construction early-ish next year. So I'm very excited to see them come to life. And just like we were talking about, there are a mixture of materials in these bathrooms, and we'll definitely be seeing some colour. Definitely a brave family who love a bit of the unexpected.
Love it.
And then another Airbnb that I'm working on. It's in the Victorian High Country, a gorgeous property with just incredible views. And where I'm working with the homeowner to turn it into a luxury farm stay. So pretty much every bit of the house is getting an overhaul, even doing kitchens and bathrooms, putting in, there's already a pool, but we're going to put in a spa, just doing a bit of the landscaping there as well. Yeah, so excited to see that one come to life. Another one is a very, very cool mid-century modern home. It's got ocean views. It's on about 10 acres, and it's got so much potential. And I'm furnishing that, so yeah, can't wait to see that and how it turns out. And then I've got another one I'm hoping to finish before Christmas. It's a super modern apartment in St Leonard's. So again, looking out over onto the water. The homeowner had some art already, so we're working with her art. And the homeowner, her brief to me was design it like it's yours. So yeah, very
Very
exciting.
cool.
Yeah, super cool. And then another one I'm working on, which I've just been to this morning, is a forever family home. It's only a couple of suburbs away from me, but it's this new architecturally designed home. It's got soaring ceilings. I think they're about 6 meters high. Again, I'm hoping to have it finished for the family and all furnished before Christmas, so they can all enjoy their pool and home and new lifestyle.
Wow, what an amazing array of projects to be working on, just different styles, locations, briefs, wow, that's an amazing kind of studio you've got there.
Yep, I definitely still pinch myself. I feel extremely lucky.
Oh, very cool. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today, Nikki. I have loved chatting and I feel like I've learned a lot about Airbnb styling and things I didn't quite realise. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, Beth.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next design dialogue.